All right, thank you so much for that introduction, and thanks everyone for coming out here to hear me speak. This is my first time here, and I appreciate everyone showing up. Okay, so let's begin. The next slide, please. All right. So, let me introduce myself. So, first of all, I'm a I just graduated with a doctorate degree in education. I'm Doctor of Education in Ethical Leadership, and during that time, I thank you. During that time, I was like able to do research on AI and VR integration in education, and my focus was on homeschooling parents. And I decided to research homeschooling because I'm originally from Nigeria, and back in Nigeria, people don't usually homeschool. So when I first got to the United States, I noticed people were homeschooling their kids, and I was very like interested to figure out how they do it. And then I heard about AI, and then I was like, okay, it'd be interesting to know how these parents integrate AI and virtual reality in their education. And especially with the new technology coming out, I decided to like study how the homeschooling parents are using that to educate their kids at home. So that was why I decided to study their instruction style and how AI and VR enhances their education, and also to address the gaps in curriculum between I just wanted to address generally like what homeschooling parents do and how they do it pretty much. Okay, the next slide please. All right. The background of the study. So during COVID, a lot of parents were pretty much forced to homeschool their kids because their kids were at home with them and they had to go to school. So, after the pandemic, that and a lot of people, according to research, didn't go back to the public school system, especially in America because homeschooling is allowed, and they decided to homeschool their children because they've already experienced it and they noticed good changes, they noticed differences in their kids during that time when they were being homeschooled. So, and they also like connected with people on social media who gave them information on how to homeschool. And so a lot of like Facebook groups currently exist with parents who share resources about homeschooling, and that tripled during COVID, and it's still increasing because more and more parents are interested to homeschool, and because they've seen the progress, and they, according to research, there's a very prominent researcher in America, Brian DeRay. He does a lot of like homeschooling research, and he's proved that homeschooling students actually do way better than the public school student. So it's not something that is just said, it's something that has been researched and has been proven to show that it works, especially in the US. And so this study focuses on Texas because I'm based in Texas currently, and I was able to like get information about how homeschooling works here, and it's a very interesting one because it's very unique. Like it's very unique because in other states, there's a lot of control, a lot of restrictions, and a lot more um, government assistance and all that. But in Texas, it's different because it's very. Okay, let's go to the next slide. I'm going to show you the details about yeah, so in Texas, it's one of the only state where the parents have full control of the educational plan for their child, but because of that, they get no funding and no support from the government. But in other states, the government usually has like more oversight, like they ask for like curriculum, they ask for monthly checkups and all that. Like they keep tab on the homeschooling process. But in Texas, all you have to do is you just send in your letter to the school that you want to withdraw your child, and then you withdraw your child, and that's it. And the government has no question. All they ask, and then let's go to the next slide so I'll show you the requirements to homeschool in Texas. Oh, okay. I've gone way faster than my slide. But yeah, this is basically what I plan to do with the study to examine how the tools work and all that in Texas. Okay, the next slide, please. All right. Okay. I've skipped a lot of things, but let's go. So the reason why I decided to do this study is to be able to like inform policy makers and also like tech experts and homeschooling parents to give them information on what's happening right now because I didn't it was, but during my research I didn't see a lot of study on AI and VR in the homeschooling system. I saw research on the public school system, but no one was talking about what these parents are doing and how they're using AI. So that's why I decided to fill that gap um, I decided to fill the gap to get information and research on that aspect, AI and virtual reality, and basically emerging technologies in the educational system. All right, the next step, the next slide. Um, all right, so to do this research, I used the resource mobilization theory and the learning environment theory. These were the theories that guided my research, and the reason why I chose the resource mobilization theory was to understand how the parents gather these resources because since in Texas they don't get resources. I was like, so how do they like take care of their children? Like, how do they spend get all these tools and gadgets for their child, especially with VR and all that? So I was curious to know and to see how they were coping. And also the resource mobilization theory talks about the homeschool, oh my God, the social organizations, how they gather this tools and resources to function. So that was why and the homeschooling system is a social group because they have this what do you call it? It's a social organization, so I just pretty much wanted to figure out how they gather resources, the financial, technical, and the social resources. Then for the learning environment theory, I was like, everyone knows the typical classroom and learning environment, and I feel like that learning environment is getting out of date because we've been using that for years as a traditional classroom setting. It's been going on for years. I know it's helped, but it has to get to a point when the learning environment system has to change because the society is changing. Like we're in a technological era, and we need to like acknowledge that, and we need to make the necessary changes that need to be made so we can actually progress. So that's why I picked the learning environment theory to analyze the learning environment of these homeschooling parents, how it is compared to the traditional classroom setting. And I feel like the learning environment does not have to be in a school structure. And that's the same belief for homeschooling parents. They believe that education happens everywhere. It doesn't just happen in the classroom. It should happen um, in at home and outside, everywhere. Education, learning should be continuous. So that's also part of the theory of the learning environment, just to see how what learning environment works. And in this study, the learning environment is a technological learning environments guided by parents who are investing technological structures in their children. Okay, the next slide. All right. Oh, I think I've said like some of this, but let me give you a brief history of homeschooling in America. So it started in the 17th century, um, with parents homeschooling with Bibles and pretty much just moral instructions and all that to raise their child. And then it progressed when they had the compulsory school laws, and then parents had to put their children in public school. But then some parents decided to um what I got to argue that the public school was not working for them and they needed to homeschool their children because of certain like religious and like um what I got moral issues. So it led to like legal issues, legal battles that actually ended up okay, actually ended up creating this acceptance for parents to homeschool. So it didn't just happen over homeschooling didn't just happen overnight. Like they had to go through like legal battles and struggles, and they also had like protests outside government houses and all that to try and show that parents had the right to homeschool their children outside the public school system. And so with the whole COVID and all that, it became like pretty much automatic when a lot of parents decided to homeschool after the pandemic. All right, the next slide. Okay, and yeah, oh, so yeah, in Texas, the basic requirements to homeschool, like I said earlier, is just a you just tell them you're using you send a letter addressing that you want to homeschool your child, and you'll be using a basic curriculum that involves reading, spelling, grammar, mathematics, and good citizenship. And that's it. You homeschool your child. No one asks you any questions. You don't have to report to anyone. You're homeschooling your child, and the parents pick everything. They create their so they see the parents at the private school, and the parents at the leaders of their private school. So that's so they create their ID cards. They create everything creatable that a school has, just to identify as a private school. But they don't like they even create their transcripts to apply to schools. So there are some universities that openly receive homeschooled kids, and they just receive their transcript and they enroll them. That's it. Like for example, my school is a Catholic school, so they they readily accept homeschooled kids. So yeah, that's it in Texas. Next slide. All right. So like I said earlier, I was able to find research articles on the benefits of AI and VR in the educational system. But like I said, that's what the public school system. I didn't see any research on VR or AI in the homeschooling system in Texas, especially in Texas, because it's still new. And again, VR, like during my research, I noticed that VR is more prominent in some states than in Texas. Like for example, in Florida, they do after the pandemic, they opened the first virtual reality public school in Florida. It's called Optima. Yeah, Optima in Florida. So um, I spoke to someone from the school and they gave me details on how the school operates. Everything is through virtual reality. The younger kids, they train them on how to code and how to build virtual worlds. And then the older kids just operate with virtual reality from home. And that's it. They plan to expand to other states and to train the teachers on how to do this so the kids can learn from home. And yeah, the teachers can also teach from home pretty much. Yeah. And also um yeah, generally the school said the Optima school says the children do very well. Like they are very expressive, they are very open-minded, and they ask questions, and they are very like more immersed in the processes, in the educational process compared to like when they're in the school, in the public school. So yeah, it's shown progress using AI and VR generally for education. All right, the next step. So yeah, so with the introduction of AI, in the whole world, basically it's changed a lot of things. Like a lot of educational things have changed over the years. Like with the way students learn, no one uses Google like that anymore. Everyone just asks their chatbot like questions, and then they get the answers, and they don't have to wait to ask their teacher certain questions. They can interact with their AI, and they have all this information that they couldn't get like in like let me say 5 years ago. So the educational system is changing, and is expected to change even more by 2030. Um, so there's a lot of changes that we should be expecting in the industry, like in the industrial employment sector. Like we can already see AI taking over so many jobs. So and again, China also said they will be teaching their K to 12 students AI. And I think the United States also just announced that they will also start that by September 2025. So there's a lot of changes that are happening, and so like I was thinking about the homeschooling parents. I'm like, how would they be able to cope with all these changes? Like I remember when the computer came in, how they also had to like get computers for their kids and to try to keep up with the educational system. So now we have this whole new AI, we have virtual reality coming up. Everything is like advancing, and I'm like, how would these parents keep up with this new information, and how would they get this information in the first place? So there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of like new things that are happening. All right, the next step. um, so we have people like Elon Musk. He's made it clear in his interviews that a lot of things will be changed, like teachers, doctors, a lot of it's not like they're gonna like take over the jobs totally, because they still need human oversight and human supervision, but like the roles the people are going to play is going to be different. So overall, we're still gonna have doctors, but like the doctor is gonna like have a probably a different role. Like it's not going, like we can already see research about like AI easily identifying certain diseases, in people that weren't easily identified before. So um, things like that, like things are definitely going to get better, but at the same time, with the whole AI thing, like we have to be careful because um, there are a lot of like ethical issues that we're currently like addressing in the whole AI um, system. And it's just a very critical point in time. That's why more research should be done because we need to actually know what we're getting ourselves into with the advancement of these tools. Like for example, I create film. I'm a filmmaker, and now I don't need a crew to make a movie. I can just sit down at home and I'm making movies with real people that look real. Like I can just generate that and it's gonna look like a real person. So it's not about like it's not gonna change. Like I'm still a filmmaker because I still have to direct the movie I'm creating. So like I said, it's gonna change the role people are gonna play. All right, the next step. All right, so for my research, I had 10 um moms from Texas. I interviewed them through Zoom. No, sorry, not Zoom, Microsoft Teams. They sent in their so I created a way so they could set up the meeting. They could schedule the meeting and at their convenience. So we spoke over the in Microsoft Teams, and they told me I had my interview questions, and I asked about their homeschooling styles. Oh, I forgot to put the percentages. Um, but it was a qualitative study, so it was interviews. And I had some parents who had eclectic style, Montessori style, classical, then unschooling. So unschooling is when you like remove your child from the system and you don't have any curriculum. You just go with the flow. You it depends on what the child wants to do and what they feel like learning, and there's no structure. It's just yeah. Then eclectic is more play based. Then Montessori is a typical Montessori setting where the children learn, they play, they learn by themselves. And the classical setting, and the struct is a typical structured classroom setting. Like these parents actually structured their homeschool like a proper like school that starts from a certain time to a certain time and had a typical structure that had to be followed every day. So the parents had different skill level using technology, some using phone and some using the advanced Meta Quest VR headset. And again, like you know, the VR headset is expensive, so most of the parents didn't have that access. Some of them mentioned taking their children to the museum or to a play center to just get the VR experience. And some just like two or three mentioned actually having the VR headset, but one of them said she was still using it just for herself and she had not yet introduced it to her child's education yet because she didn't know the applications to use. And yeah, one of them uses Victory XR. I don't know if anyone has heard about them, but that's one of the I also like spoke to someone there and they actually have really good educational tools in VR. I also used it like I went with my with my um VR headset and I went to their system and I saw the biology class and I dissected a frog with the tools there, and it felt so real. Like I had to like pick up the frog and then cut it open, and I remember doing the real process during my science class in high school. So I was like, this felt like the real thing, but it wasn't the real thing. And yeah, all right, the next set. Okay, so I had three research questions. One was to measure the effectiveness of AI and VR. Then the second was to um, find out how the source their how they get resources, financial, social, and technical resources. And the third was yeah, and the third was the curriculum integration to see how they integrate this in the school system, in their educational system. So the next slide, I'm gonna go over them step by step. All right. So the first thing I noticed was that parents gauge um, the the effectiveness of the AI and the VR based on what the child tells them about their experience. Like the participant seven I spoke to, like she was like, um, if the child uses the VR headset and then comes back to her and tells her what he learned, and that he's actually the one that teaches her how to use, like he teaches her things, like things that he saw and he just learned. So he said she's told me that he's the one that pretty much teaches her. And the same thing with participant three, um she also said that she learns back um from the child, like the child explains everything to her, and it's like this back and forth learning process. Like she's learning, the child is learning, everyone is learning. All right, the next step. Okay. And the second thing I noticed was immersive viral boost oh my god. Okay, so this is participant seven. She said she noticed an improvement in her child's knowledge using VR. That he was able, like he usually stays in his own world. That's what she said. And then he learns a lot. And then she unschooled her son, and I actually met her on Facebook. Like I had to join multiple groups during my research, and I saw her post about. She posted her son using the VR headset, and she was thanking a parent for introducing it to her. That it's really helped him. And then I messaged her to ask her for her insight and to ask her to and I interviewed her, and she was really happy, and she was like she unschooled him, and she usually doesn't like standardized testing, but she has decided to test him to see how much he has learned because she noticed an improvement. And so with the whole Texas freedom, you don't have to do standardized tests. So she decided to just do that just to see how good he is now because she noticed an improvement. All right, the next step. All right. Then the theme of confidence and motivation, the children were actually more motivated to learn, and they had like their freedom to do like their own lessons, like the lessons that their parents created for them. So a lot of the parents use ChatGPT to create lesson plans, and there was this parent that said she created themes, like each week had its own theme. So maybe you should, like this week they'll have like learning about cars, then the next week they're learning a different theme, a different topic. But her lesson plan was planned for the week, like weekly, on a weekly basis with different themes. All right, the next slide. All right. So yeah, this is the mobilization process, how they get resources, and this is how they get social resources. The parents usually are in social groups, So they get information and they stay up to date on new tools and new ideas, new ways to do things. And I was in a lot of these groups. I saw a lot of parents asking questions. Some parents were actually against using AI. Like someone said mentioned something about um how does religion come in? Like the person felt AI was anti-religious or anti-religion. But yeah, like some parents said they would never introduce it to their children, and a lot of opinions on its Facebook groups. But they had different types of groups. You join the one that best suits you. So they have the one for people for homeschooling parents who like outdoors, and they have the one for homeschooling parents who actually travel the world. It's called world schooling, and they have the homeschool groups for each state, like um, the state program group, like where they get information and resources. Um, so they're all like so many different types of groups. You pick the one that works for you. All right, the next step. I also wanted to mention that the group for technology for homeschooling parents who use technology was very small, like probably like just like 500 members in the group compared to the other group that had like 10,000, 100,000 members. So like I think like a lot of homeschooling parents are not really keen on using technology because it's not, I don't know. From what I noticed, like, yeah, a lot of people had some probably bad experiences with it and they've been cautious. So that's why I said like there needs to be like a lot of like parental like assistance programs or something to like train these parents how to use these systems. Like for example, a parent was complaining about using ChatGPT and it gave them false information. And I'm like, um, that's because they didn't prompt the chat GPT properly. So that's where prompt engineering comes in. A lot of people don't know how to like properly prompt, so they get the wrong answers. And the way AI works, like you have to like pretty much direct it to give you exactly what you want, or else it will just give you something generic or something that doesn't really work for you and or false information. Like there was a time when ChatGPT used to like give like false articles, like create wrong articles that don't exist, and a lot of students got in trouble for that. So I think a lot of parents like trying to teach their children and then also using fake articles, that also was an issue. So a lot of people were really skeptical about it. So that's why I said like a lot of there needs to be like some kind of training services for these parents so they can properly use it or use this new tools. And okay, so yeah, some parents they actually create their own animated stories, and like I said before, I'm a filmmaker, so I can understand that, like creating your own story for your child. So like I said, like parents should be like content creators for their children. So like pretty much, so if you're actually too scared of technology, you can create your own content for your child, so your child don't have to like use the generic ones that are available. For example, Tiny Tap, it helps you pretty much create your own app or your own game. Yeah, that's Tiny Tap, right? Let me see. Yeah, that's the one that helps you create your own game just by prompting it. Like you can prompt like I want to create a game for like a first grader on phonics or on or something. Like pretty much create any game you want for your child. And then Kudu AI, it gives you your child progress reports every week. And then Canva helps you create your animations. You can create anything. You can create worksheets. You can create school you can create anything, worksheets, paper plans, and school. I forgot what they call it. Like what they use, workbooks. Yeah, you pretty much create anything on Canva. animations, videos, and yeah, it's really like it's been like I said before, like it's a new world we're entering. Like a lot of new things are happening, especially in education, and yeah, it's very interesting to see parents as content creators. All right, the next step, next slide. Oh yeah, Canva is great. I have a subscription with them, and it's really helped me create a lot of things, a lot, and it keeps improving every single time. Like every single time, there's a new feature, and yeah. So yeah, homeschooling parents, and yeah, so the funding part, they receive no funding and they self-fund. All right, the next step, next slide. And so like a lot of parents say like they have to like use the free version first to see if they really need it before they actually commit to it by subscribing. And they usually test it out before introducing it to their child. Like they usually test out like new apps, new softwares before actually letting their child use it. Um, so yeah, like I mentioned, parents creating weekly themes by building like lesson plans to align with what they want to teach their child using ChatGPT and other like chatbots that are available. Like one parent even mentioned using the AI on WhatsApp. Yeah, like what AI is pretty much everywhere. All right, the next slide. Okay, and yeah, they use the gaming. So like I mentioned Victory XR earlier, I mentioned Khan Academy. So that Khan Academy is actually free, and your child, it builds the lesson plan based on your child's knowledge. So it's pretty much grows with your child. They have all the way from pre-K to K to 12. Yeah, it's a full K to 12 education plan, and it's free, and it's very helpful for a lot of kids who are like learning. Um, yeah, and some parents don't like some apps because they feel like it doesn't align with their needs. Like that's why I said, yeah, that's why I said that the parents can actually create their own applications. They can create their games and all that using just prompts with AI. All right, the next slide. All right, and so like there's this app called Scratch Junior. It teaches children coding, and a lot of these parents actually teach their children coding and programming, and they program like virtual worlds and all that stories. Um, it's pretty much preparing them for like the computer age we're entering into. So a lot of these parents, I think they are probably aware of the importance of actually teaching them exactly what they need, not what is generic. Because I remember growing up, like we had to learn some subjects that I feel I didn't need, but we just had to because it was part of the system. But now the parents actually notice their children's strengths, and one of them actually noticed that her son likes Lego robotics, so she's trying to get him more involved in robotics and all that. So like when you identify their child's strengths, they actually homeschooling parents usually go towards that strength and address it and focus on it. So they have the ability to do that, and that's what helps the child. And again, like I also like I worked as a homeschooling facilitator. I was teaching creative writing to this homeschooling group in downtown Houston, and I used to go there like twice a week. And it was really insightful. That was my first time seeing like how they operate one on one. Like there's a co-op it's a co-op group, a co-op. So there's this thing called co-op in homeschooling where like parents bring their children to other homeschooling parents' house to like homeschool. So, like I said earlier, like they identify as private school system, so other parents can actually teach other kids. They can group them together and form a like. So some parents can decide to teach certain topics that they know, and it's like that's why I say like they have this very strong community bond. Homeschooling parents, like before you enter their community, you have to be one of them. So that was one of the issues I had with my research because I had to like try to communicate with these parents like I was one of them already. Like I have like two kids that are still pretty young, so I'm still learning how to homeschool. So I can withdraw them and start the process. So that was why I wanted to like learn from these parents, and I was happy that they were able to like let me in. And so with this group, the students pretty much decide what they want to participate in. So the teachers come in and they have these offerings. Like they'll be like, I'm offering art, I'm offering music. Are you interested? Do you want to participate? And the child decides if they want to. So that was how it worked. That was how the school worked. So I was teaching creative writing, and I usually go in, I'm like, I'm offering creative writing. Who wants to participate? And they're like, yeah, I want to. And at the end of the day, I ended up having two constant students who kept on coming all the time to learn, and they were very creative and all that. So that's how homeschooling works. Like the child pretty much leads, or the child leads, and the parent also like notices the child interest and honing on that. All right, the next step. Okay. So yeah, there's this introduction of kids to um technology and the metaverse, the meta quest, VR headset. So like I said earlier, the one I noticed that I've noticed is the Victory XR. Like they have a very strong like system for home for education. They do like they have like they have a very strong platform, VR platform. Like they have like construction, they have the healthcare system, and yeah, like also like I also went in on the metaverse and I saw like there's a school in the metaverse and the students go in, they pretend to be doctors, pretend to be nurses, and they like role play like educational professional jobs and all that. So it's something that I noticed again that like, a lot of games are not being like a lot of educational games are not being made. I know it's still new, but yeah, like we need to focus more on how we can create more educational virtual reality content. And this is also a plus, like the virtual reality meetings are already helpful. So we need to hone in on more how to actually progress and expand these possibilities to make it better and way more immersive and more educational for these kids. All right, the next step. Next slide. All right, and so the summary of the resource mobilization findings, I noticed that they get social resources from their peers, from their groups, and they also get financial support from themselves, from their own resources, and the technical support is usually by using ChatGPT and other like technical tools they can use to assist them to create all these things, and also the social network to get technical information. And this theory was actually founded by McCarthy and Zell in 1977, and that's theory, the root of theory. All right, the next step. All right. The learning environment theory, I was able to notice how the AI and the VR helped with real-time feedback between the parents and the child, helped with memory, helped with self-learning and all that. and AI VR act as a third teacher. So like I was talking to like my professor, and I was like, the traditional school system needs to learn from the homeschooling system to see how it works. And according to the Radio Emilia style, like learning happens everywhere, and that's what the homeschooling system holds like as like the ultimate, like the main reason to homeschool. That homeschooling should be everywhere, and AI cannot act as the main person. Like AI is like a support system to the parent. So parents, like for example, in the school system, the AI can act as the what do you call it? As the training guide for the child, while the teacher can act as just like the support system for the child. So I just feel like overall, AI and VR can take over the educational school system. Is all about how, and it's not like it's a bad thing. It's going to be a good thing because these children can learn everywhere. They can learn at their pace. They're learning different things. So like AI will pretty much give them information about everything like they need to know, and they just need the guidance from the parents and the teacher to help them understand and to know what they need to learn pretty much. So I don't know how to put that, but I'm just saying like generally the school system needs to change. There needs to be some kind of adjustments to address these new advancements. All right, the next step. All right, so the implications on for this study is to actually get the policymakers to consider how to help integrate those new emerging technologies into the educational system. And for example, how to design the curriculum for like since that in September 2025 they're going to start teaching AI to students. Like how will they do that? Like so, oh, I forgot to mention like there's a parent who mentioned that she has a child that she talks to the chat GPT and she tells it, I have this 5 year old, no, I have this 9 year old, yeah, he's a 9 year old. I have this 9 year old, he's very active, he has high energy. How do I teach him this so topic? So they have things like that. So there's also this lady I spoke to. She owns this Facebook group for technology, homeschooling with technology. That's her group on Facebook, homeschooling with technology. She had a podcast. She posts every week, and she addresses like she has different prompts. She has a prompt book that she sells, and she has a gaming. She encourages gaming with education, like using gaming to promote education. And again, there's this research that's going around about like um kids creating apps and making money. So a lot of kids now create their own um applications, their own games, their own so within games they create like tools and all that. So they're coding, they think it's game, they think it's a game, but it's not just a game. It's they're learning. They're building things, they're making a living already. So if policymakers can find a way to make education more interesting and more exciting, because, for example, kids can now just go on AI and they're like creating their essays. So I'm like, they can create an essay within an hour, something that used to take like 2 days, and then what next? They're just like, okay, that's it. But they need to give them something more to think about when it comes to education, not just submitting essays, and there needs to be more practicality to all this. Like we're in an interesting era right now. So they need to take advantage of these tools and make learning more interesting and more accessible. So that's part of the policies I hope can actually my research can actually help push out there, like because there needs to be changes overall in the educational system. So yeah. Um. Okay. So the next slide. All right. So like I said earlier, I spoke to just mothers during my research, and there's this book I saw about how mothers have more research, like there's more, no, during research, like they usually hear the voices of mostly the mothers, like you hardly hear the voices of the fathers. Like, okay, so what's the opinion of homeschooling, like how do fathers feel about it? But at the same time, I noticed that the oh, I'm in Houston, Texas. Oh, okay, okay. So the locations, yeah, they were all in Houston, Texas. So sorry, urban, Texas. So I didn't focus. I didn't do research on the rural areas. So that was at first. I wanted to make a comparison. Sorry, I wanted to do a comparison between the rural and the urban settings, but my supervisor advised me to just focus on one since we don't have a lot of research, like, and I'm the only person, so yeah, I decided to focus on just the urban parents, and yeah, um, and we need more observations, we need more studies on AI and VR integration, and also I didn't get the children, the feedback from the kids, like how they perceive, how they use AI, and what they feel about it. There needs to be research on that, and there also needs to be longitudinal studies because I know we're just starting the whole AI era, but we need to start the research to see the long-term impact on all these tools and how it's impacting these kids. Um, so majority of my participants had young kids, but the ones who had older kids were the ones who used VR headset, and there were just three of them. And the other younger kids were the ones who did the coding and the Scratch Junior and the other like learning apps that were just developmental apps. Um, so what else? Okay. Most of the participants didn't have their own personal VR headsets. It was general headset. They use public headsets to try and introduce uh, the experience of virtual reality to their children. And some of them actually didn't use AI personally. But that like the participant seven, she personally didn't use AI, but her child uses AI and VR, and is the one that gives her feedback. So they all had like different levels of experience with different tools. And again, this is all new. Like I said earlier, we're in a new era, so a lot of parents are not yet informed about the technology. And right, the next slide. Okay, so in conclusion, the urban homeschooling mothers in Texas are are very like active in sourcing in getting resources and acting as the main coordinator of their child's education. And I feel they're doing a good job generally because it's not easy um to get all this information and to act as the main primary um educational support system for your child. So yeah, and again, so there's this new system in Texas that just came out. The school choice is probably going to be starting, I think, next year or end of this year. So that actually just came out during my research, and they just approved the 10,000 budget for each parent to homeschool their child, so they could get resources and all that. But that hasn't started yet, so probably by next year. And so we're like hopeful to see how that will create changes, since parents will be able to get some kind of support. But at the same time, some parents are not on board with it because they feel like it's going to take away their freedom. Because like I said earlier, like Texas is a state where um they don't have any oversight. So them accepting to get resources from the government, they are skeptical about how it's going to affect their freedom if the government is going to start asking them for more things, or like maybe curriculum update and all that. So they don't want that. So that's why with my resource mobilization theory, I was able to argue that this is a social organization. They have the strength, they have the power, and they can actually prove that AI and VR is actually beneficial to the educational plan for their child, and that they don't need oversight, but they need these tools to actually create a proper learning environment for their child. So yeah, I think that's the end of everything. That's the end of my research, and that's it. I think this is the last slide, right? So any questions? Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, I'm actually working on publishing it right now. I just graduated, so my brain is still processing everything. Okay, so yeah, a lot of the parents are actually like in Texas, for example, is a conservative state. So a lot of the parents are actually very religious and very restrictive of what they introduce to their child, especially that's why also like there's also research on the reasons why these parents actually decide to homeschool in the first place. So a lot of them don't want to introduce their children to the public school system and what the public school system offers, like things that the other students that they're introduced to who actually give them all this knowledge. So they don't want that type of infiltration. I don't know how to put that, but yeah. There's also a group I noticed that's called that has public school parents and homeschool parents. And the homeschool parents always complain that the public school friends that their children have are actually teaching them bad things. So there's this like struggle between how much these parents want to control their child from being introduced to. I don't know if that answers your question, but like they feel like technology doesn't have this filter right now. So that's why a lot of them are skeptical about how to introduce technology to their children because they are scared of what their child might be exposed to on the long run because like sometimes with technology like you can't just be with them 24/7, but you have to like have this so the parents I spoke to, they like I said earlier, one of them said she actually uses the apps before she introduces it to her child. So that's one way that she tries to like sort of like filter it, I guess, filter what she introduces. But that's why I also said like technology experts need to like work on how they can help create more I don't know if should I say control or more restrictions on what these children are being introduced to because it's like once you introduce them to technology there's pretty much no boundary, so there needs to be kind of more boundaries so these parents can feel more confident in introducing these systems to their children. So I don't know if that answered your question. Okay, then the next question, how should parents learn about how to homeschool? Okay, yeah, so um like I mentioned, they have groups like social groups. Like in Texas is THSC or something like that. But they have social groups who are actually in charge of each state in America. In Texas, they have their groups. They also help parents like who have issues like who like to help them resolve the issues. So now I say like they have resources that are out there information, and these parents actually join these groups. They form these groups. They join them, and they share resources. Like they share a lot of resources, like a lot of information. Like I said earlier, I plan to homeschool once my kids get older, I plan to homeschool them. And this information are like they've really been helpful. So generally, even social media is like one of the best ways that they communicate. But they can also contact, like they can join systems. They have like um organizations that you pay monthly or yearly to join to get like actual information and all that. So they have all that in place. Yeah, that's in the US and generally in Texas also. They have that system. Okay. Okay. How parents learn standards and get materials. Yeah. Okay. There's this. Let me quickly. This is my research. This is my research paper. So the Texas Homeschooling Society. What do they call it? Hold on. Let me see. Let me give you the name of the organization in charge of the um so yeah, it's the THSC. Yeah, the Texas Homeschool Coalition. That's the group in charge of homeschooling in Texas. Like they give resource, they give advice, um general resources and all that. That's a, yeah. They have a Facebook group also, and they have a Facebook page. So yeah, like I said, like there are lots of resources out there. Like parents, I don't know if, oh, sorry, my laptop is glitching. Okay, so like there are a lot of resources out there. Parents just need to check, and they'll find. Even like some parents get information from AI, like they ask AI questions, and that's how they get information on how to homeschool. Like for example, you can say your child is so age and you want to homeschool your child. What should you plan? How should you plan it and all that? You can use Gemini, ChatGPT, or even DeepSeek has that. Yeah, it can provide you with that information. But like I said earlier, you have to use AI with caution to get information because sometimes it will tell you like you have to also confirm the information. It's just like Google, like getting information from Google, you have to also verify that it's actually correct. Um, any more questions? Okay, exactly. Like homeschooling, yeah, it can be done right. Like that's why I said earlier, like um, it's not a one size fits all. Everyone has a different method of homeschooling, and it depends on what works for your child, what works for you, and generally what what you feel is right for your child. So like with the public school system, you have to follow exactly what the government feels is right for your child. But with the homeschooling system, you can hold on. You can be the one to structure what works for you and what works for your child. It's that freedom to decide that, and again, it's that freedom in Texas that the parents are holding on to. That freedom to decide what works for their child without being cautioned or anything. Oh yeah, the THSC, yeah, that's the link. Yeah. So they provide a lot of information. And each state has theirs. Exactly. Like homeschooling has always been a thing, and everyone just has a different way of seeing it because obviously you have to go home. So like that's why I also wanted to talk, that's why I spoke about the learning environment because you also learn from home. Like I said, I also mentioned in Reggie there Emilio method. Like learning happens everywhere, not just in school. You're learning everywhere you are. um so you can be at home learning, you can be on the road learning, you can be in a social environment, social location learning. Like you're learning everywhere. Okay, so they don't have to take any state test in Texas. They like that's the thing. Like when you're sending that letter to remove your child from the public school system, you're unschooling your child, so you don't have to submit any other documents. That's it. Like once you're sending that letter to your school that you plan to homeschool your child, That's it. You don't have to submit any states required tests. And the lady, the participant 7 who mentioned that she was going to test her child, she said she was going to test her child just to see where he is and just to see how much he knows. It's not because she wanted to submit it to the government or to prove anything. She creates her own transcript. So if I want to, that's what I'm saying. So some schools request, so like when you're going into college, you need the GED, right? But some schools just ask for a transcript, so you don't have to do the state test to go into college. So some schools, like my school, for example, they just say a transcript is okay, and that's where the parent brings in the transcript and submits the transcript to the college, to the university that the child wants to attend. So that's in Texas. I don't know about other states. I didn't, because I focused on just Texas. But I think other states require a lot of things compared to Texas. They require like monthly or regular checks. No, you still have to pay taxes. So that was the thing that the parents were actually complaining about. And they pay taxes for the public school system, but still they don't get anything. And yeah, they still have to pay taxes. They're not tax exempted. But starting next year, parents can apply to get this to be a part of the school choice funding. But most of the homeschooling parents are not gonna accept that. From what I've seen, they're just gonna continue homeschooling with their own personal funds. Oh, socialization is very awesome with homeschooling kids. Like they actually have one of the best social life I've seen. Like I told you, I also worked with some with the homeschooling co-op. So they usually have multiple things that they should I say events or multiple sorry, parents meeting up, multiple meetups with other homeschooling parents and other homeschooling kids. Like I said earlier, like they usually operate in groups, not just individuals. Like they operate in groups, like your community group or a group of people who have the same ideas as you, like the group of people who go outside, like outdoors, outdoor homeschooling. So like everyone has their own nature, and that's what they use to socialize for their children. Like that's what they introduce their children to, and these children actually they learn a lot because they learn from so many different situations and so many different social environments. And again, like according to research, they want these children to be among like the younger kids to be with the old and like to be in the same environment as the older kids, so they're learning from the older kids and this back and forth. So like they feel like the children learning, so they don't like this idea of like separating classes or like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Everyone learns together. You can have like maybe you can group them, but they still want them to associate together to learn from like each age group without the classroom environment. So like that, like I said, like the classroom is not really necessary because um I know there needs to be structure, and structure can also come in like in how you organize the if like how you organize the setting. So I basically feel like there needs to just be like some kind of changes, like grouping. So some researchers don't like the idea of this of grouping um age groups, like putting them in like a particular class, like that's going to restrict their ability to learn more, like like pretty much restricting their ability to explore, how can I put it, to just learn and develop. Like it's they feel it's too restrictive to like group children into like their age group, to be with just their age group. It's not it's not helping them developmentally. because it's just restricting their ability to learn. And that's also where like the restriction come in, like who you associate with, like the group you associate with. It is usually what you're used to and what you want. Like the religious groups, they associate with themselves. The secular groups. So like the co-op where I was working, I had like people came in all the way like from far away, like 40 minutes away, just to attend the co-op because it was a secular co-op. So they didn't have, so most of them have like religious group co-ops in their area, and they didn't know how to associate with them. So they had to like drive all the way to like a faraway place just to find a group that they can work with. So it's like socialization is actually one of the key interests of homeschooling, because it's like these parents are like deciding the social environment to introduce their children to. Um, I'm trying to get all the questions. Um, so they're not usually isolated based on research. Like they usually focus on what the kids want to do. Yet the kids like interest, and also what works for the child. So like most of those athletes, they were homeschooled because they had to hone in on their skills. Like the American I forgot her name. She had like she couldn't keep up with the public school system, so they had to remove her from school and homeschool her so she could attend practice. So that's what I'm saying. Like they usually focus on the skills that the child has and honing on that. Yeah, so you must show that you have this subjects in your curriculum, and you just have to show them like the letter that you're gonna use for social curriculum. There's a template in the THSC that shows you the letter to send to your school district, and yeah, just to tell them the things you plan to do, and that's the end. Like you don't have to um talk to any other government official. You're homeschooling your child, and that's it. Nope, no teacher parent meetings. Just the parents in charge of everything. Let me see. Okay, thank you so much. Alright, I just got to the end. Alright, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the homeschool groups. So like the homeschool group is a very strong thing in homeschooling. Like that's one of the main like thing of homeschooling. Like they form these groups, they join these groups, and that's what gives them even confidence to actually keep going, because they're getting all this information and they're getting all this support from other parents. So thank you so much. Okay. Yeah, the groups, yeah, it was very interesting working with those parents. Yeah. Oh, I'm already done with my PhD. This was my doctoral. This is my dissertation. I just graduated like 2 weeks ago. So I'm still like processing everything. It's been a whole journey. I got an EDD. Thank you. Exactly. I feel like it's just now that the learning has actually begun. Like I feel like I just started learning because it's like I was in like panic mode the whole program, and now I'm done with the program. I'm like, okay, so what did I really study? And it's just not hitting me why I studied, because it's all now making sense that oh wow, this was actually very it was an interesting like experience, and I need to learn more so I can actually prepare to homeschool my children as I plan to homeschool them. And yeah, and again, AI keeps developing every single day. Like with the whole, like I'm a filmmaker and Video 3 just came out, and I've been able to do some impressive videos, and I'm like, this is just the beginning and we already have all this. So imagine what we're gonna have in the next 5 years. So yeah, this was an interesting start to the whole process. Yeah, yeah, a lot of the groups are religious. That's why I said like the secular groups are very few, like probably very, very few. Like most of them usually like drive very far to find their people, to like find their secular groups. Yeah. And again in these groups they have like confrontations, like there was a secular group I joined, and then a religious lady said something and people were like, how did she find the group? What is she doing there? So like yeah. That's why I said the homeschooling thing is like a group of people coming together in a community to figure out how to train their children, because you cannot operate as an individual person. Like when homeschooling, you have to connect with a bunch of different people. I haven't seen any homeschooling mom that just stays by herself without getting it, or any homeschooling parent that doesn't search for information, because they're always searching for information. They're always trying to stay up to date with what's going on. It's the same thing as a parent. You always want to like stay up to date, but this with them, they know it's more important because they're the only ones teaching their child. So they know the importance of like following up with all this information. All right. Oh yeah, definitely. Most of the parents were like I said, like I spoke to just the mothers because the fathers are working. That's why there has been little to no research on the father's perspective on homeschooling. It's usually mothers that homeschool, but the fathers are like the financial providers, and the mothers are like the main homeschooling is the main homeschooling person because she's the one homeschooling the children. And some mothers who also work, they actually post in the group like how do people do it, how do they cope. Like some, I noticed some people posting their side hustles, that they do certain jobs to try and cope with the resources. That's why I that was what also made me think about the resources, because I'm like, how do they cope with and again, like I said earlier, like there's this divide, the ones who can afford the resources and the ones who can't afford the resources. So in other states, most they don't have to bother about all the resources because they provide resources for them. But in Texas they don't for now. So um, that's the thing. You have to work to provide the resources for your child's education, and they usually drop their children in co-ops during the day, and then it's like so homeschooling does not have to be only at home. Like they have groups, for example, that I mentioned, so you can take your child. That's why I say I need to wait for my kids to get older so I can homeschool them. So when I mean homeschool, it doesn't mean they're at home with me 247. They are also with other groups. That's where socialization comes in. But you have to be the one to pick and decide the group that you let them associate with. Compared to the public school where you just take your child to school and they're associating with everyone and they're being mixed with different things. Or with homeschooling, you're the one deciding, you're the one picking. Like, for example, the religious parents pick their religious groups and the children are only exposed to religious people. It's like private school, but it's not a school. It's a group of people you know. All right, thank you.